we've made everything so incredibly expensive, but that's the price that we pay for having how many pairs of shoes, how many televisions, how many cars, how many channels. And so that's the thing that we have to kind of figure out. If having material wealth, having the means, is more important than having the meaning. And I don't know, man. And here, tick, tock, tick, tock. The crocodile swallowed a clock. Does this make sense to you now? What is Hook running away from? Time. We're all running away from time. Why is it that Peter Pan's not running away from the crocodile? Because he's forever young. He doesn't grow older. Hook grows older. Hook has a perpetual reminder of his mortality. The fact that he's already lost a hand. He now knows he's mortal and that he can die. And that's why he's afraid of this crocodile. Because he knows that time is pursuing him. Some of you guys want to be YouTubers and influencers. Cool, do it, man. I hope you're very successful at it. And when you are, I'm going to be on your comment section. I know these fools. Go work for one of the cartels. When they behead you on the video, I know that fool. Pattern, like a repeating pattern that we see here, which is that question of, do you have to work so much? And I guess that's the question. Do we have to work so much? How much is enough? How much is too much? And I imagine that we have different answers depending on which side of that parent-child relationship that we are. Some of you, I imagine you have parents who work really long hours, and you're glad. And you're glad that they're gone all the time. And then some of you have parents who work long hours and you wish that they were around much. And it's difficult to put ourselves in their mindset. Because of course, what are they thinking? Why do they work so much?
For the family?
What's that?
For the family.
For the family, yeah, for the future, yeah. Because at what point is enough enough? I was thinking that book that we read from the snake story, there's one about a spider. And it's kind of like about that too. Where there's a spider who works a whole bunch, and he spins webs and puts them all over the forest, and he catches a bunch of stuff, and then he has an accountant who kind of comes to him and says, hey, you caught so many flies and all this stuff that you and your family can live for the rest of your life, and you never have to work again. And he's like, oh wow, and he says, in fact, you've got so much that even your children will be able to not have to work in their lives. So the spider's like, that's so great. And then he starts thinking, he goes, but what about my grandchildren? Will they have to? And he says, well, probably, but your children will be taken care of. So the spider says, I got to get back to work. And he goes and he works more and more and more, and he tells his wife, I'm going to just do this right here and get just this much done so that, that way our grandchildren are taken care of. And then if I remember correctly, he then has the accountant come back and he says, you've done so well, that's not just your grandchildren, but your great-grandchildren that will now be taken care of. And he just feels like, I really accomplished something. And then he starts thinking, well, what about my great-great-grandchildren? Well, they have to. So, of course, the idea is it ever really enough? Because at that point, I won't tell you how it ends, but at that point, what's the spider really working for? Or what are our parents really working for? It's not just the today. It's not, and are they really working for their grandchildren? No, there's a sense of accomplishment that's derived from that. It's like, look at, I work really, really hard, and I've got something to show for it. I've got something to show for it. And oftentimes we superimpose ourselves onto the other people. Like, I'm sure that many of us, like our parents, when they were growing up, they wished that they had more. And so they look at it and they think, I'm going to work a whole bunch. That way my kids will have more than I had. So maybe they had time with parents, maybe not, but this is kind of like their way of almost like trying to do better. And it's like, you'll understand when you're older. And maybe you'll understand when you're older why you have trauma from when you're younger. Perhaps. But how to repair that, I don't know, man. Or how to find that balance. There used to be a way that we had a balance. But we don't have that. We don't have that anymore. Anybody take a stab at what we used to do that we don't really do anymore? We used to have one parent stay home and one parent work. So you used to be able to have one person who was like, working, bringing home, and making enough money, but things are very, very expensive today. And there's reasons for it. Maybe we complain about it, but I mean, how many televisions do we have? How many phones do we have in the house? How much is a cable bill? How many cars do we have? We have way more stuff. We also pay way more taxes and fees and things for everything else. So we've made everything so incredibly expensive, but that's the price that we pay for having how many pairs of shoes, how many televisions, how many cars, how many channels. And so that's the thing that we have to kind of figure out. If having material wealth, having the means, is more important than having the meaning. And I don't know, man. Anyway, what do I know? I don't have any kids, and so it's easy for me to sit back and say, you need to get rid of all those material things and spend more time with your children. And I can look off in the distance very heroically, because I've made a decision how everybody else should live. But I don't know, man. I think I've mentioned before, I have a really good friend of mine. I need to call him. I haven't talked to him in a few months. I used to work with him. Before I was a teacher, I worked in financial planning. And long story with that, but by a friend of mine, I met him when I was doing that. And this guy makes quite a bit of money. He makes quite a bit of money. He grew up in New Jersey, and he used to work at the docks, unloading ships and stuff like that. And he moved to California, got arrested a bunch of times, had a felony, tried to shoot somebody with a MAC-10 at the Denny's over in Mission Valley long time ago. Long story. And but he kind of turned his life, went to prison, turned his life around pretty well, and he makes a whole bunch of money. Has a couple of houses, has 3 daughters. But the guy works like a fiend. I know that when I was working in financial planning, I was working like 60 hours a week. That wouldn't be uncommon. I had some hours where I was working 70 hours a week. I started doing the math on that, man. 7 days, 10 hours a day, straight. Because you get to a point where in that line of work, you're very well compensated if you're successful. But it becomes very, very, very alluring, because you might take like 1 day a week off and just say, not working on Fridays, that's it. But then you get a call from the office and they say, hey, we have a client who wants to meet with you. Would you like to schedule? And you're sitting going like, I could make $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 off this one meeting. Why not? So you go, okay, schedule a meeting. So then you go in, and maybe the meeting's only going to be like an hour or so. But then you figure, or 2 hours, and then you figure, well, no, I'm already in. I might as well do some paperwork since I'm in the office. And then it's very easy to catch yourself, falling into 7 days a week. And so that's what he does. And he's at a point now where his daughters are all grown up. They've all moved out of the house. It's just him and he has 1 daughter still living at home, but they're all over 18. And his wife is diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. They found out because they were walking through the mall one day, and she slipped and she fell, and she broke her hip. She was like late 30s at this time. Who breaks your hip when you're in your late 30s? That's like something that happens to you when you're like in your 70s. 60s. And so she goes and gets checked out, and they find out that she has cancer in her bones. That's what's happened. And are you cheering for that? She's like, man, I'm gonna tell Justin you said that. And maybe so. And they say, I'm the bag of things. And so they, in stage 4 trauma, nothing that they can do about it. And so she's been living her best life as he describes it. This was like 3 years ago. She's still around. They're still fighting. And he said that pretty much his whole family has already kind of come to grips with it and kind of gone through all those stages except for him. He's been living for the last 3 years as though she just died, because every time he sees her, he's thinking this, that goes through his mind all the time. And I wonder if this is a dude who, and by the way, the story about them was incredible. They met. They were both going to like raves and doing a bunch of ecstasy, and they got arrested at the same time. It was really romantic. They both went to prison, and then when they got out, they both turned their lives around. So they've been together since they were like 18 or something like that. And they've gone through all those horrible things of life and completely turned everything around, and they did it together. And every time he stops, he has to look at her, and this is what he sees. So I wonder if he could rewind his life, and if everything was going to play out exactly as it was in terms of them finding out that she had cancer, if he would have taken some other job where he was working 40 hours a week, but they were scraping, they were getting by, but he would have more time with her. I don't know. I would never ask him that. Because it isn't a fair question to ask somebody on this side of the diagnosis. Of course, on the other side, it's easy for us to say, I'd give up everything for that. But I don't know. I don't know. And so, at what point do you draw that line where you say that enough is enough? I was going to do some word association, but I don't know. I think we might be past that, where we're going to say work and ask you, what are some things that go through your mind when you think about work? And like last period, they said things like pay, and they said things like boring, and they said things like hard, and then a bunch of like negative things that were up there. But I was wondering, do you know anybody who like really loves their job? You all know at least one person. I know that for damn sure. Yeah, I know that. I mean, I haven't woke up. I think I told you this is my 14th year. During my 3rd year, I quit. I wasn't having any fun. So near the end of the 3rd quarter, so around this time, a little bit earlier, I quit. Just wasn't having any fun. I went to the principal, who I knew was a friend of mine. I just said, "Yeah, I'm not having any fun, so I'm quitting." So he's like, at the end of the year, I go, "Nah, like today." And this is like 2 days before spring break. And then I left, and then I kind of said, and then during summer he called me up and was just like, "Hey, give it another shot. Why not? Try it. We need somebody." So I said, "Sure." So I came back, and ever since I came back, there hasn't been a single day yet where I haven't wanted to come in. Sometimes you wake up and you're tired, and then you're sleepy. That's what I mean by tired. Sometimes I wake up and my little kitty, he sleeps right here with his head on me, and you look at me, "Oh, you're so cute," and you don't want to get up, but you have to push a little Theo down. Sometimes there are other things that you were thinking about you wanted to do, but nothing that you would rather do instead. Or I should say since I'm talking about me. Nothing that I would rather be doing instead, unless I can play third base for the Dodgers, but I may have missed that opportunity years ago. But I think, imagine there have to be some people in your lives, other people who love what they do. But I also imagine that most people don't love what they do. And it's difficult, I can imagine. Because like if you walk out of school today and you walk down Highland and you walk past every single shop, I guess you can ask yourself as you go down there, how many of those storefronts that you walk past are going to be filled with people inside who love what they do for their jobs? Or do they do it just because, as we began with, just do it for the money? Mostly it's for the money. Who has a passion to sell flowers? I don't know. Who has a passion for selling tacos over at Vida King's? I don't know. I'm sure that the person who owns it has a passion for selling Vida and all that, but I don't know how many people behind the counter do. And again, I imagine there are some people who do that, who do have a love for that stuff, but it's probably the whole job associated. Maybe they like their coworkers, maybe they enjoy the pace of it, maybe they enjoy talking to people. But is it something that people want to do for the rest of their lives? And that's what I'm talking about, time. It's time. It's the crocodile from Peter Pan. Have I ever talked to you about that?
No.
Remember from Peter Pan, the crocodile? How do you know the crocodile is coming?
There's TV.
You hear tick, tock, tick, tock. The crocodile swallowed a clock.
Oh.
Does this make sense to you now? What is Hook running away from? Time. We're all running away from time. Why is it that Peter Pan's not running away from the crocodile? Because he's forever young. He doesn't grow older. Hook grows older. Hook has a perpetual reminder of his mortality. The fact that he's already lost a hand. He now knows he's mortal and that he can die. And that's why he's afraid of this crocodile. Because he knows that time is pursuing him. Remember, if you guys remember his, in the movie anyway, the animated movie, the old one, Hook's first mate, I forget his name. It's like something with an S, like Shipley or Sneedley or so whatever his name is. He yells at the crocodile, "Get away from me, Captain! Leave the captain alone!" And the crocodile obeys him, and and goes away. Why isn't he afraid of the crocodile? He acts like a little kid. He's an older person, he's an old dude, but he acts like a little kid. He's not worried about time because he's perpetually young. Versus Peter Pan, who's forever young, which is two different concepts. None of us are forever young. We can be perpetually young, but maybe not forever young. And so there's an awareness of that we're going to have to at some point make a decision about what we want to do with the rest of our lives. And the more time that we spend on the things that we don't want to be doing, the less time that we're investing in discovering the things that we do want to do. That might mean that for every 40 hours you spend working behind the counter of a flower shop, and if you love it, great, and if you don't, that's 40 hours that you could put into doing something else that you love, finding that thing. And by the way, easy for me to say when I'm not the one who has to lose that time and lose those hours while I go and find my passion. Actually, it's not true. I have done that, and it was easy for me to say. But you'll find it. You'll find it, man. Hopefully you find the thing that you love, and hopefully you put yourself into it. And it doesn't really matter what it is. Some of you guys want to be YouTubers and influencers. Cool, do it, man. I hope you're very successful at it. And when you are, I'm going to be on your comment section. I know these fools. I taught these fools. They'll be like, yeah, whatever, dude. And whatever it is, I hope that you do well and that you're successful in it. If you go work for one of the cartels. When they behead you on the video, I know that fool. Whatever it is, man. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? All right. Well, maybe they are right. Maybe I'm a bad influence.